The galaxy was dying, not from war, not from cosmic disaster, but from something invisible, something that crept through space stations and crawled across planetary surfaces without mercy. The Crimson Rot, as the translators called it, had first appeared on the outer colonies of the Empire. Within 3 standard cycles, it had spread to 17 star systems. Within 10 cycles, it had touched every major civilization in the known galaxy. Doctor stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Medical Station Harmony, watching the constant stream of transport ships arriving from affected worlds. Each ship carried the sick, the dying, and those desperately hoping someone could save them. The station itself was massive, built through the cooperation of 12 different species, and it floated in neutral space as a symbol of unity in times of crisis. Now it had become the last hope for billions of beings across the stars. Was not supposed to be here. She was a microbiologist from Earth, a planet that most galactic species considered primitive. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. In the grand timeline of galactic civilization, they were newborns taking their first steps. The elder races had walked among the stars for thousands of years. They had technology that seemed like magic. They had solved problems that humans could not even imagine. Yet here they stood, helpless against a microscopic enemy that did not care about their advanced technology or ancient wisdom. They were the first to admit they needed help. Their purple-skinned scientists had worked tirelessly for months, but the plague adapted faster than their solutions. Though with their 4 arms and brilliant minds had tried next, they developed 17 different treatments. All 17 failed. The silicon-based offered their quantum computing power to model the disease. They produced millions of simulations. None provided an answer. Even the mysterious architects, beings so old they remembered the birth of stars, confessed that they had never seen anything like this plague. Had arrived on the station 6 months ago as part of a human medical exchange program. Most of the alien scientists had ignored her at first. What could a human possibly contribute? Their species still used chemical rockets in some of their space programs. Their understanding of quantum biology was elementary at best, but had not come to prove anything. She had come to learn, to observe, and perhaps to help in whatever small way she could. She spent her first week studying the plague samples under her basic Earth equipment. The alien microscopes were far more powerful, but she found them confusing to operate. Her simple tools showed her simple things. Perhaps that was exactly what was needed. The great minds of the galaxy were looking for complex answers. They searched for quantum fluctuations and dimensional anomalies and genetic markers that existed across multiple planes of existence. Looked at the basic structure of the pathogen, and asked a simple question that no one else had thought to ask. What did this thing actually need to survive? The answer came to her during a sleepless night in the station's human quarters. The Crimson Rot was not actually alien at all, at least not in the way everyone assumed. Its base structure shared remarkable similarities with certain Earth organisms. Specifically, it resembled a combination of a fungus and a bacterium, something that should not exist but clearly did. She had seen similar hybrid organisms before, in the hot springs of Yellowstone and in the deep ocean vents of the Pacific. Life on Earth was stubborn and creative. It found ways to exist in places where existence seemed impossible. Requested a meeting with the station's chief medical officer, a named high physician. The alien towered over her, his 4 eyes looking down with a mixture of curiosity and doubt. She explained her theory in simple terms. The plague was not some advanced biological weapon or cosmic anomaly. It was a basic survival organism that had found the perfect environment to thrive. The blood chemistry of most galactic species provided exactly what it needed: specific minerals, certain protein structures, and a temperature range that matched its optimal growth conditions. Listened patiently, but could see the skepticism in his posture. Humans were known for their optimism, their tendency to see patterns where none existed. He thanked her for her input and promised to share her findings with the Research Council. Knew what that meant. Her report would be filed away, buried under mountains of more sophisticated research from more respected scientists. But she did not give up. Humans rarely did. She continued her work alone, using her limited equipment and her Earth-trained instincts. The plague killed by disrupting cellular energy production. It blocked the mechanisms that cells use to convert nutrients into usable energy. The victims essentially starved at the cellular level, their bodies shutting down organ by organ. It was a horrible way to die, and had watched it happen to too many patients already. The cure, she believed, would not come from attacking the plague directly. Every attempt to destroy the pathogen had failed because it adapted too quickly. Its genetic structure could shift within hours, making any targeted treatment useless. Instead, focused on defense. What if she could protect the cells themselves? What if she could give them an alternative energy pathway, one that the plague could not block? She remembered her graduate thesis on extremophile bacteria, organisms that survived in the most hostile environments on Earth. Some of these bacteria had developed backup systems for everything. When one pathway failed, another took over. They were not smarter than other organisms. They were simply more stubborn, more determined to survive. It was a very human quality, thought with a smile. Working through countless nights, she developed a treatment based on these principles. It was not elegant, it was not sophisticated. The alien scientists would probably laugh at its simplicity, but when she tested it on infected tissue samples, the cells stopped dying. They found a new way to function, bypassing the plague's interference. The pathogen was still present, but it no longer mattered. The body could survive while its immune system eventually cleared the infection naturally. Presented her findings to the Research Council 3 weeks later. The chamber was filled with the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy. Doctors, researchers, analysts, and representatives from a dozen other species sat in their designated sections, their attention focused on the small human woman standing at the center of the room. She felt like a child presenting a finger painting to a gallery of master artists. She explained her discovery in the simplest terms possible. Some of the scientists looked confused. Others looked offended that such a basic solution had not occurred to them. High Physician asked several pointed questions, his tone challenging but not dismissive. Answered each one calmly, providing data and evidence from her experiments. The council debated for hours. Many argued that the treatment was too simple, that it could not possibly work against such a sophisticated threat. Others pointed out that nothing else had worked, so perhaps simplicity was exactly what was needed. In the end, they agreed to conduct a small-scale trial. 50 volunteer patients would receive treatment. If even half survived, it would be more successful than any other approach. All 50 survived. The news spread across the galaxy faster than the plague itself had spread. A human scientist, using basic equipment and fundamental principles, had found what the greatest minds could not. The treatment was mass-produced within days. Ships carried it to every affected system. The death toll, which had reached into the billions, began to slow and then stopped entirely. Within 3 months, the crimson rot was no longer a death sentence. Within 6 months, it was effectively eradicated. Became the most famous human in galactic history. They offered her citizenship and a position in their most prestigious research institution. They wanted to study her brain, convinced that humans must have some unique neurological structure that allowed for such creative thinking. They requested permission to create a digital copy of her mind, which she politely declined. Even the architects, beings who rarely interacted with younger species, sent a message of congratulation and respect. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity itself. For 60 years, humans had been considered interesting but ultimately insignificant. They were newcomers, primitives who had stumbled onto the galactic stage by accident. Now the elder races began to reconsider their assumptions. Perhaps there was value in simplicity. Perhaps fresh eyes could see what ancient minds overlooked. Perhaps these stubborn, optimistic, creative creatures had more to offer than anyone had realized. Doctor returned to Earth a year later, her mission complete. She went back to her small laboratory at the university, back to her research on extremophile bacteria, back to the life she had lived before she became a galactic hero. When reporters asked her how it felt to have saved billions of lives, she simply shrugged and said that she had just done her job. When they asked what made humans special, what quality had allowed her to succeed where others had failed, she thought for a long moment before answering. Humans, she explained, had evolved on a harsh and unpredictable world. They had faced ice ages and volcanic eruptions, predators and diseases, famines and floods. Every generation had confronted challenges that seemed impossible to overcome, and every generation had found a way to survive, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through adaptability and persistence. Humans were not the species in the galaxy. They were not the strongest or the most advanced. But they never, ever gave up. The galaxy was learning that lesson now. In the years that followed, humans became valued partners in research and exploration. Their unique perspective, shaped by their difficult history, proved useful in countless situations. They asked questions that others did not think to ask. They tried solutions that others dismissed as too simple. They approached problems with a stubborn optimism that sometimes bordered on foolishness, but often led to breakthrough discoveries. Passed away peacefully at the age of 93, surrounded by family and friends. Representatives from every major civilization attended her memorial service. They declared a day of remembrance across their empire. They named a research station after her. They added her to their eternal digital archive, preserving her memory forever. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, the last traces of the crimson rot finally disappeared, destroyed by the immune systems of the beings it had once threatened to kill. The galaxy had been saved by a single human scientist with simple tools and a refusal to accept defeat. It was a very human story, and it was only the beginning of what humanity would achieve among the stars.